121st edition of the Roy's Voice podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands Gingrich the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good! Off the glass! Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over! The game is over! Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma! And ready on his second attempt. That one is no good! They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores!
With 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63-62. 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. May. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. And how about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions.
You competed. And that's what it takes to win big-time games. You've got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart, too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. And tonight we get to look at the 93-83 home victory over Wake Forest on senior night. Final game in the Smith Center for Carolina this year. And Anthony, this big time win for a lot of reasons. Most importantly, you get to send the seniors out right. That's always what you're wanting to do, and it's always a little bit easier when you're not having to go against Duke. So you accomplished that. You continued your improved play that we've seen over the last week or so, and you're now jockeying for better seating position in the ACC Tournament, which ultimately is the most important thing right now. When we did the last podcast, we didn't know about the status of Georgia Tech and how if they competed in the ACC Tournament, that kind of jumbles everything out of whack because they were already banned from the NCAA Tournament. Well, now they're out. They accepted their ban. They're not going to play Greensboro next week. And if Carolina got 2 wins and got some help, there's a track to get to the 10th seed. But the first thing we had to do was win. And they did that tonight against Wake Forest.
Yeah, very good overall performance from the team, especially in the second half. Carolina 35 in the first half, finished the game with 93, so 58 in the second half. Just a dominant offensive performance down the stretch in this game against a Wake Forest team that pretty much did what we expected that they would do, which is they would play Carolina extremely tough because they played their last 2 opponents extremely tough and found ways to win. And, you know, I'm not going to say that Carolina was in the lead comfortably all night, but it felt like through most of the game, Carolina was in control. But the thing that was scary was just about every time that Wake Forest needed to hit a shot, they found a way to hit a shot. But Carolina was able to gain a little bit of a cushion as it got later and later in the second half, and they eventually pulled away to a huge victory. And for the first time all year, they've scored 90 points in back-to-back games. So this team's starting to feel it now. Not only have they looked a little more active on the defensive end, granted, let up 83 tonight, but still I think did what they needed to do, especially down the stretch, to be able to hold on and win the game. But they've been doing it on the offensive end now, and all of a sudden are becoming a team that not only are we thinking can make a run in the tournament, but also a lot of people around the ACC are thinking can make a run when this team heads to Greensboro for the ACC Tournament.
Yeah, Carolina historically is doing what they're doing right now, which is playing their best brand of basketball in March. They clearly done that, but usually they're not 13 and 17 and in the bottom of the ACC. Normally this team is competing for ACC regular season championships, and if you're doing that, that means you're a team that's got a legitimate threat to cut down the nets during March Madness. But this is a year that that's not the case. But you've seen Carolina now hit that part of the season where everything is clicking. No one looks lost on the court. They look like a cohesive unit. This offense right now looks better than I think we've ever could have thought it would be once we saw the first couple games of the year. And I admittedly freaked out after the Elon games. And then especially after you went so long without Cole Anthony, and we saw how much it took this offense to adjust to him back in the lineup to get to this point. But tonight, they shoot 51% from the field, 58% from three, led by Brandon Robinson's 5 3-pointers. They're connecting on their free throws more frequently tonight, 21 of 28. That averages out to 75%. And that's why there's this sudden feeling of belief, because Carolina under Roy Williams is never going to win ACC games in any capacity because of their lockdown defensively. They're going to score the ball at a premium rate. And like you said, first time all year that they've scored 90 or more in back-to-back games. I couldn't tell you the last time it took this late in the year to do just that. But it's been now or never for a while. I think this team has realized that, and that's why you've seen the improved play. You mentioned Wake Forest, and I'm with you. They played the way you thought they were going to play. They played with a lot of confidence. They're playing inspired basketball because they appear to be playing for Danny Manning's job, and they gave Carolina a game. Them two were very good offensively, 48% from the field, 45% from three. Actually, out-rebounded Carolina, so whenever Roy Williams looks down the stat sheet, he's not going to be happy about that. And they always kept the game within 10. And I think that was the thing the whole time we were going through the game was, how many times has Carolina lost like this, where they just controlled the game, but then all of a sudden, it all falls apart. And even after beating State and beating Wake Forest, you couldn't have 100% trust that, or after beating Syracuse on Saturday, that they wouldn't blow the game. But now this team has done it 3 weeks in a row. And like you said, that's why there's confidence, not only within the locker room, but there's got to be other teams around the ACC that don't want to play Carolina. Because now that they know how to win, they've got the talent, and they've got enough experience, and they've got the right head coach to do it. And so now it's really fun to watch it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that this team has in the last 3 games that I think was just lacking so much in the middle of conference play, and we talked about it a lot on the podcast, this team just wasn't confident. That first win that they got with Cole Anthony back on the floor against State just seemed to jumpstart everything. And you know, I mean, you got to hand it to Cole Anthony, who's playing great. I mean, he was the best guy on the floor in what might be his final game in the Smith Center on Tuesday night. He was just fantastic. 28 points, 8 of 14 from the field, shared the basketball extremely well, 7 more assists to just 1 turnover. So this is what we expected Cole Anthony to be, and I think that's the guy that it's really you could really tell the confidence is there more than it was when this team was losing. That's the guy that I think shows it the most, because he's just played so much smarter. He's been under control. And, I mean, even tonight had a behind-the-back pass that just you don't really make if you're not a confident player. And it also helps that he's starting to feel confident about the guys that are around him. Christian Keeling, although he didn't play as great as he has recently tonight, still was effective off the bench for Carolina. Tonight it was Brandon Robinson's turn, which is great to see because it was his senior night, and he's the guy that out of this class is probably going to be the most remembered guy. Someone that went from being a guy that would be brought in sparingly to last year being a guy that was kind of your sixth man, came in, knocked down 3-point shots when he needed to, and now eventually has turned into a guy that was a key player for you most of the season, had to fight through a lot of injuries, but became pretty much what we were hoping he could become. Unfortunately, it just took until the end of the season, but he did a great job in this game. In what is his final game, we know, in the Smith Center, dropped 18 points, hit 5 threes, and I think, it's amazing what confidence can do for you. The question is, how much confidence will Carolina go into the ACC tournament with? I think right now they've got to go in with a ton, and I think you're right. Everybody is looking at teams in the ACC that they don't really want to play. And to be fair, that might just be about everybody in the ACC, because you just really don't know a whole lot about anybody in this conference because of how weird of a year it's been in college basketball. But I think Carolina is one of those teams that right now people are looking at and saying, let's hope that somebody can beat them before they have to play us, because right now we don't want to have to be the team that has to play them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you said is exactly correct. One of the big reasons why we've seen Carolina start winning is there's been more production offensively. And, I mean, you look at the point totals, you say, well, yeah, duh, that makes a lot of sense. But it's not just Garrison Brooks doing all the work or Cole Anthony. You added Christian Keeling, giving you production. 9 points tonight. First time in a while he didn't have double-figure scoring. But you get Brandon Robinson's 18 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. When Carolina is Carolina, they've got at least 3, most times 4 options that they can go and get 15 to 20 points on any given night, and it makes them so much difficult to defend. 3 weeks ago, we were seeing teams bogged down on whether it was Garrison Brooks on the interior or Cole Anthony on the perimeter, because they didn't respect the other players to make shots, and that simply changed. And when that happens, not many teams in the country can give you a lineup that features Cole Anthony, who's a top 5 point guard talent, a guy in Garrison Brooks that is a legitimate big man, and shooters like Brandon Robinson and Christian Keeling. And that's just what Carolina has. You're seeing the offense really come together. A guy that's flown under the radar because his scoring isn't really great, Leaky Black's play has really picked up on both ends of the floor. He's gotten more confidence shooting the ball. Tonight only 3 of 10 to get his 9 points, but he grabbed 8 rebounds. He handed out 5 assists. He did all those little intangible things that we expect him because of his skill set. And I think he's been the difference maker, kind of like Theo Pinson, because that's the guy that he loves, that he gets compared to. He doesn't have to score the ball a lot to have a huge impact or even dominate a game. He's got to do all those other things, but it's hard to excel in those areas when you're not winning, when your jump shot isn't falling. But now that has seemingly changed, and it's not a surprise that it's changed with the winning.
Well, I think the other thing is there's a lot of plays for Leaky that you just that aren't going to show up on the stat sheet. Like when he hustled late in the game, threw the ball off of, I forget which Wake player it was, might have been Brandon Childress. And it was a play where normally, this ball is just going to go out of bounds. I don't even remember what the actual result of him saving it eventually was off that inbound. But, I mean, it's plays like that will not show up on the stat sheet, but you're going to look at the way that he's playing, and you can just see that he's picked up his level of play. I mean, you mentioned 8 rebounds tonight. That led the team. Garrison Brooks was second with 7. Carolina did not have a great night rebounding. Leaky Black did have a great night rebounding, though. And 5 assists, another guy that's spreading the ball around well, because early in the year, Carolina was lucky if they were getting into the double digits in assists in games, because there just weren't a lot of baskets there, and most of the time guys were just having to do things on their own because they frankly couldn't pass without turning the ball over. So for them to get to a point now where, you look at tonight, 18 assists to just 7 turnovers. That's probably, that might be one of the best differences that we've seen all season. And it's been like that in each of the last 3 games.